Hey, welcome to the Fireside. My name is Jake. Very excited to have you here with me for today's episode with Haley Adams of Castro Tattoo in beautiful San Francisco, California, one of my favorite towns that I don't get to as often as I would like to. I met Haley at the Paradise BYOB in beautiful Jiminy Peak, Massachusetts back in October, and we had several really interesting conversations throughout the weekend. We both taught seminars. Her seminar was really great. It was on outer space tattooing. So if you've ever tried to tattoo space scenes, you know there are a lot of tricks. It can get really dark and dingy and muddled, too heavy. If it's too light, it doesn't really read as space. There are a lot of tricks to pulling off outer space kind of scenes successfully, and she did a great job in her presentation of breaking down her process, and even had little workbooks for people to kind of work along with her. She provided like a rough sketch and some colored pencils for people to work along with her as she went through the process. It was really an interesting seminar. So I got to sit down and talk to Haley quite a few times over the weekend. So this conversation kind of meanders. It goes in a few different directions. She owns Castro Tattoo, like I mentioned, in San Francisco. So we talked about being a shop owner. We talked obviously about outer space tattooing and several other things. So I hope you enjoy the episode. I really enjoyed getting to know Haley. We'll have links to all of Haley's social media and the best ways to get in touch with her and keep up with her in the video description below. If you want to get access to Haley's outer space seminar at the end of this episode, you can head over to Reinventing the Tattoo and get the online version, or the recorded version of that seminar. And I'll make sure to link to that as well. Thank you very much for supporting what we do, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Here's the reason that this podcast interview is probably destined to fail, because we had such a good conversation last night, and anytime I have a good conversation, I'm like, man, we should be recording this one, and then we try to like recreate it. It never actually works.
And like the person like knows they're recording now, and they get nervous. Yeah. So like as the guest, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm probably like more nervous, and you're probably have a different persona on camera sometimes.
Yeah,
you know, you're
sure.
like, oh yeah, I need to speak. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate. We really should have just had the camera rolling last night, because we went into a lot of really like crazy points, or not crazy points, but different points on a lot of different topics. But maybe we'll touch on some of those. But maybe let's start with just background, where you came from. Just regular tattoo stuff, where you came from, who you are, where you. I'm sure I introduced you in the intro, so that part people already know that you own Castro Tattoo in the Castro district. I did not know that. I kept hearing the term "live at Castro," Gabe kept telling me, and I was like, I thought it was like a Spanish. Maybe I was confusing with Hablamos del Arte or something.
No, it has a Spanish name because the first people who settled in San Francisco were Spain, like Spanish, right?
Yeah.
So everything was named with Spanish names. But live in the Castro district is a famous LGBTQ district. I'm the vice president over there of the Merchants Association.
How did that come about?
Man, we're gonna dive in now. So I always am trying to. All right, so I own a business there, right? And then you look around and you're like, this is deemed the historical LGBTQ plus district of San Francisco, this very like queer city, right? We know about that. And it was a lot of just dudes, a lot of guys. And you're like, wait.
Straight guys or just guys?
No, gay guys. There's a lot of gay guys. There's a lot of old gay guys there, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I also found out that people on the board make decisions on what businesses can move into there, which is something like San Francisco does a lot of the time. Like you'll notice that there's less chain restaurants and stuff because they're like, do we need another Taco Bell? Hell no, you can't come in, which is pretty cool. We got mom and pop stuff. But I wanted to see more diversity, more Black ownership, more POC, more women, and the way to do that is to be in a political position. So I actually ran for the cultural district, and then I had to do this speech in front of, like a political speech. I had to be very serious and pretend not to be tattooed like a skater kid. And I gave my speech, and I didn't get voted in, but then the other association was like, oh, actually, you should run for this. And I was like, okay, I'll run. And then I got voted into that position, and I was secretary for a while, and then got voted in for vice president. But under the intention of like, how do we make this more diverse in this area? Which is like, they're in charge of a lot of like money and events and stuff. So I'm like, oh yeah, for events, we'll just get performers that are like trans, or performers that are Black, or like POC and queer, and like women, and like, man, chicks love acoustic guitar, let's get some of that. No, you know, but like, you know, organize everything to where it is diverse. You know, not to be like, oh, all the fucking dudes have to move out or anything like that. But I mean, this is deemed a historical LGBTQ district, and then you're like, why we just got the G, dude? Like, that sucks. So it was like all in hopes of doing that. And then also, as a tattoo shop, the zoning was kind of weird on my tattoo shop. So I was also like, well, if I'm on the board and those are the people who get to vote on my shit, because they voted on my zoning and they were like, okay, you can stay. And I was like, who are these motherfuckers who get to say if I can stay? This shop's been here for over 26 years. And I was like, I'm going to find out who these guys are, you know?
Yeah, so they have the right to go through? Because I would guess you were just grandfathered in no matter what they did with the area.
That's what you would think. And that was the situation. But then as like, whenever we were switching ownership and City Hall is just going through the paperwork again, they're like, what is this? You know? And we're like, I don't know, it's been there forever, you know, and they're like, yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine, but we have to ask, you know, the district of the Castro. And I'm like, who the fuck are those guys? And in the beginning, because I've worked there for like 8 years, it was a lot of like people who own corporations, like, you know, like, I don't want to name names, I feel weird about that. But it was like the only like few little corporate places. And like, it seemed to be more people after money. And then I was like, these people get to decide what my business does. So then now I get to interview the businesses that come into this amazing place. And I get to ask them really hard questions. They're always like nervous. They're like, hey, we want your letter of support. And I get to be like, so how diverse is your staff? And then they're like, okay, this is what I have. You know,
I was ready for this.
Sick. And I was like, I don't know, I'd vote you in just because you weren't another guy. Like, it's fine to be a guy, but there's just a lot, you know.
A lot of them already. Yeah. So this was kind of how our conversation, not quite so much on the district. I don't even think we talked too much about how you got into that position.
Yeah.
Well, before I move away from that, though, like, how much time does that take? You just like do it quarterly? Is like weekly meetings?
Well, you have to devote at least 3 hours a week.
Oh, okay.
So.
To like researching whatever's on the table for the district or whatever.
You have to do a bunch of paperwork. You gotta like do permit stuff. There, you know, like during COVID, they have I don't know if this exists other places. I'm sure it does. But you have to build parklets for outdoor dining. So we're the people who own all the permits for that, and the street closures, and like have to regulate the health codes and stuff like that. But so that's like a lot of permit work. You can devote volunteer time to. We also are in charge of a whole bunch of like gay pride flags, which is a weird thing. And like recently, one of the people on the board had to go around, count all like it's like 149 flags and mark which one needs to be replaced or cleaned. You know, like we do dumb shit all the time, but then it pays off with like the little things that are like, oh, this matters. Like when they tried to put like surveillance in the Castro. And then you have to like talk to about it. You're like, wait, do you guys want surveillance here? I mean, like most people come from all around the world to come to this place to be like the second that they get to be like openly gay. Like, you know, like they're coming from like the Middle East, they're coming from Europe, which actually does have a lot of problems like with being openly gay. And you want to put surveillance cameras in? What? No, you know? So then you get to talk to about like, go to like these meetings and be like, yo, do you guys want this shit? Everybody's like, hell no, you know, and you want to cut it out and be like, you can't come here. So those little things make it worth it, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, I'm protecting like this like beacon of hope for around the world. Everybody's like, go to the Castro district, you can be gay. Like,
I guess, you know, I never think about like literally picking up and moving to another place where you can be more comfortable, and that, you know what I mean? I mean, like, you know, moving from cold to warm climates I think of, but not moving from one place to another so that you can be openly gay. It never just doesn't occur to me that that's a thing.
Man, one time I was walking down the street there, and these two older men, they had like long beards. I think of them as mountain men. You know, it's like, we like our queer dudes too. Don't get confused.
Right.
But they're like wearing like overalls, long beards, and I was behind them at the crosswalk, and I heard one of them say like, "We're allowed to hold hands here."
Oh, wow.
And then they like slyly grabbed each other's hands, and like they kind of like laughed a little bit, you know, like. And I was like just standing there, and I was like, "This is the cutest shit I've ever seen." And then the other one was like, "We're allowed to kiss here," and they like laughed a little, and like looked at each other, and they just kissed really quick, and then they like giggled, and I was like, I just saw two mountain men be scared as hell. Like this is the first time in their life for sure they're allowed to like stand at a crosswalk in a busy area and like just hold hands.
Yeah.
Like.
That's not actually funny at all, but it is funny that you experienced it.
No, but it's very cute, you know? It's like it's wonderful to be in that area and to be able to see these people. And like people come into the tattoo shop and they're like, I need a rainbow flag right now. And you're like, whoa, what's the emergency? They're like, I don't know, it's crazy where I am back home and I just saw some beautiful shit and I just need a rainbow flag, you know? And you're like, all right, I understand. I do have a walk-in artist, hang on, you know? Tattoo emergency like takes like a different tone, you know? Because like, these people, I don't know, they just experience different shit.
Yeah.
They're like, come there, they're like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. I'm allowed to like hold my boyfriend's hand, you know? So,
Crazy. Well, just tell me a little bit just about the environment of we'll get into podcasting and stuff too, which we did that some last night, but we'll get into podcasting some on this show too. But tell me just a little bit about the culture of your shop.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, so we have a queer shop. We have like one guy and there's like a few ladies. I think everybody identifies as queer. I'm gonna say that for sure. The culture of the shop is don't be scared to walk in. Everybody's gonna be fucking nice to you, you know? And maybe that sounds aggressive. Like, we're gonna be fucking nice to you, you know? Like,
sit down and wait for this niceness we're about to hit you with.
We're gonna be so fucking nice. We're gonna tattoo queer flags on you. I do a lot of outer space, but I know my walk-in artists like get so many like, oh, let me just get this from the cash register. So that's the main thing is like, no matter who you are, literally, no matter who you are, like, even if you're like, I hear a lot like cis white dudes being like kind of freaked out to like walk into shops like that. Yeah. And I'm like, no, dude, come on in, it's cool, you know. And then like definitely like want to be comfortable for like Black people and people of color. Like we literally go out of our way, like no culture appropriation is allowed at our shop. And can you think of that in tattooing? There's a lot of aspects of that, and I feel like that's a pretty new thing, but I've gotten a lot of feedback from that being like, thank God, dude, like are you like the one tattoo shop that took all that shit off your walls? And I'm like, yeah, maybe. But also it's like deemed like all the artists agree, like we don't draw shit, that's not our culture. That's pretty wild. But you know. Yeah.
But I wonder being a shop that's focused on accepting the widest group of people, when I think about my own clientele, right? When like we had this discussion last night, most of my clients are, because I'm a high day rate and I'm in the town that I've been in for 20 something years, and so I've got an established clientele. Most of my clients are like professional straight white dudes, right? And so I just think about like if they were, you know, if they were to come into your shop,
tell them to get the fuck out. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, it's not
the only thing that I think of that makes me like if I ever find myself uncomfortable in a situation, is because I'm afraid I don't know like terminology correctly. Like when you say a queer shop, it took me the longest time to realize that was kind of an all-encompassing term. You know what I mean? Or what means what. I think that sometimes that's where it gets kind of like intimidating for people.
Totally fair. But that's all like okay, so you like queer people, you're right, that's an all-encompassing term.
Sweet. Nailed it.
Boom, damn. Are around that culture all the time. And so like we all do have to do learning all the time, because like as a lesbian, I gotta learn about being trans, and you know, like there's like everybody has to learn about each other to be inclusive to each other, and like to be sweet to each other and to make them feel comfortable, because they spend so much time being fucking uncomfortable, you know what I mean? So I think there's an aspect of like okay, yes, I am around queer people all the time, and I do get to learn that shit easier. But then the other aspect is, like, if you're not around it all the time, you have to take the time to learn it and try to educate yourself just to make your clientele feel comfortable. Because, like, you don't know it, but there's a lot of people who, like, won't walk into certain shops because just the fear alone of being, like, talked to, like, shittily, you know, or being judged for, like, looking the way they look. Um, but if, like, one person takes a chance and walks into your shop, I don't know if you, I don't know what your shop's like, but takes
That's
a
just me.
chance,
That's not
yeah,
yeah.
and walks into your shop thinking like, oh shit, this is like just a straight dude. Like, what if he doesn't know? What if he thinks I'm weird? You know, what if he like thinks the way I dress is weird, or like, what if he's racist? Like, whatever. You could take pride in like that you took the time to educate yourself to know how to be kind to these people. It's just like that one person was really brave, you know, just walking in and being like, I'm gonna trust that you're cool, and then all you have to do is be cool. And sometimes it works out like that, and then sometimes it's not cool at all. So it's just for clients' benefits, you know. It's just like taking the time to educate yourself a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
One other thing that we hit on last night, and I also want to get into like actually tattoo stuff and podcasting and all that too. But one other thing we hit on last night was I wonder if focusing on like trying to make sure you're like most tattooers are like that we see at conventions are straight white dudes, and I wonder if it's ever a challenge to, or if it's something that enters your mind, if you're hiring an artist, you know what I mean? Like, and a straight white dude needs the job who's a great artist, and maybe a lesbian needs a job who's a beginning artist. How do you juggle that? Or is it, because it's kind of a business decision, more importantly than
especially for my business, I have to ask them like certain questions. Like I was just open to hiring for people, hiring for a position at my shop. And I took a lot of interviews, and so I would get like straight dudes, and I'm like, hell yeah, you know, I'm giving everybody like this opportunity, this benefit of the doubt, like whatever. But I have to ask them like, are you comfortable around gay people? Do you know this terminology? Like, what do you do if someone says, I have AIDS, and then how do you proceed? Yeah. Some people don't know the answer to that question. The answer to that question is, I've been trained my whole fucking life and whatever, you know, like, I don't care. It's sweet that you told me, you know, like, let's do this shit. Yeah. But, so some of those interviews, I'd be like, you know, this is a gay district. And then they'd be like, actually, I didn't know that, you know, and they'd be like, what's the, you know, like, what's the protocol? And I'm like, no, I'm going to ask you because you want to come to this shop. Like, I need you to, like, already know this stuff. I can't. The thing about having like a safe space, like we've heard that, is I want my workers to come to work every day and not have to teach anybody. I think I want them to come to work and be like, yeah, I'm me, this is sick. And not be like, wait, what did you say? Hang on, we're gonna have a conversation. So what I need to create is a safe place for my clients and for my coworkers. So they need to already be educated. They need to already like know terminology and stuff, because I can't actually take the risk for them to offend somebody and like hurt somebody. Because like I said, these people are hurt constantly. They go to the corner store, they're fucking hurt. Like people are like mean to them. People kick them out for like stupid shit. People follow them around, you know, like it's like, yeah, just come to this shop and just fucking relax. Like, you do not have to take the time out to actually teach somebody. So it's like totally okay. I would hire like a straight white guy, and like I've had that manager before for a very long time. Very sweet guy. Yeah. But you do kind of have to pass a test, you know, because I need to know that you're safe for my clients and safe for my artists. Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I don't think there's any. I mean, it's no different than having someone pass a drawing test if you're going to take them on as an apprentice, right? Yeah. And there's a skill set that you have to have in lots of different kind of ways. We were talking last night about kind of meeting people where they are, like trying to just figure out where, you know, like instead of like having, you know, whatever, having expectations. And I've got a thing in my latest seminar, my first seminar that I did, and I struggled with this one slide where I said that you need to be
judgmental whenever a consultation comes in, meaning like you need to like form a visual kind of opinion about the person and what shapes look right on them.
Yeah.
And which obviously is what I meant, but I struggle with just the terminology.
You're like, wait, judgmental. Wait, how does that come in? Do they think that they have to like judge this person?
Right.
Like, like no, what you're, and I knew exactly what you're talking about actually during that, is like you're looking at this character and you're trying to fit this tattoo to their personality and their body, like shape and skin and everything. So I think that makes total sense. Yeah. And you're asking them questions. I ask them questions about their like personality, or not specifically about their personality, because I'm scared like things are gonna like keep talking to me. You know, I'm just like, so what do you think about this tattoo or this tattoo? And then like get a feel for them and then know what they like, get the tattoo. So yeah.
So in a way, I guess in our profession, that we're kind of like, we're constantly interviewing people from every possible angle, both like if you're hiring if you're hiring artists, front desk people, and I guess because it turns into such a relationship based kind of business.
It is.
like
it's very
clients,
close, right? You want everyone to feel fucking good.
Yeah. Exactly. So talk just for a minute about Life at the Castro and what made you start it, and really what the topics just. Do you tend to focus on, is it tattoo related? Is it more?
It's tattoo related, and it's like, I mean, I don't just interview like queer people. It's just like whoever I think hasn't got a chance to tell their story. But that started because I think me and Gabe were talking about the history of tattooing, and I was telling him some like weird gay history shit, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "No, it's real." He's like, "Why don't I know?" You know. So he was like, "Actually, could you talk about that more? But like all the time, you know?" Like,
tell the bird.
Phil Sparrow. Okay, so Phil Sparrow is a queer tattoo artist, but any of the tattoo artists. Any of the tattoo artists with a bird name in them is like a queer tattoo artist, right?
And this is historically.
Yes, like Phil Sparrow, Cliff Raven, but let's see, and Phil Sparrow taught Ed Hardy, right? He's a queer tattoo artist, and Phil Sparrow also dated this guy, Dr. Kinsey, who created the Kinsey scale, which is the scale on 1 to 6. How gay are you? You know,
wow.
You know. So everybody falls like on a different scale, but. That research was done by studying Phil Sparrow, who wrote under the name of Samuel Stewart. So all of his journals were analyzed by his lover, Dr. Kinsey, and like we use that scale like jokingly a lot, you know. They're like, "Oh, did you check the Kinsey scale?" You know, and then that's so weird that it's connected to tattooing. Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah,
that's why I'm gonna start thinking of every time I hear an old.
Yeah, you're gonna like, is that a bird name?
Yeah, and
then like. Maybe what if there's like a guy like in recent history who took on a bird name and everybody's like, you know, like, oh shit, okay, good for you, flagging, get it. And he's like, what? I just like hawks. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, what? My name's Dove. I'm a tattoo.
Yeah.
Why does everybody think I'm gay?
So far, I've heard like of the gay bird names, the gay bird names, that should not be said, of the bird names.
That's what we're calling this episode actually now, gay bird names.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So you've mentioned this a couple of times over the weekend. So it's really about kind of giving a voice to people who haven't had a voice or a chance to tell their story. That was like the purpose of it.
I mean, these little bits of history are like, okay, Gabe was telling me just the other day. Actually, I ran into him in the corner store, and I thought this was like a really sweet compliment. But I was with my friend, and he was like, oh yeah, he's like, you know, you go through so many podcasts, of like tattooing related stuff, and it just keeps going and going. And he's like, but then yours, I always hear something new that I haven't heard before. And I was like, me, you know? Yeah. But it's because I'm talking to different types of people. I am talking to queer artists, I'm talking to Black artists, I'm talking to, people of color, along with any kind of queer spectrum too, and like women, and like, those are different stories, you know? Yeah.
So let's transition into your actual tattooing. So you taught a seminar here this weekend on space tattoos, outer space. Yeah. I loved it, and you gave everyone gift bag so they could draw outer space along with you, which is awesome. You and Renee, who we'll have on next, and someone else, Hunter, all like brought stuff for people to do, and always just sit and talk and do slideshows. I'm gonna start bringing people drawing stuff. I think
honestly, like then they're drawing and they're not looking at you.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And like as soon as I got in there drawing shit, it was like, okay, time to draw. I got so much less nervous because everybody's heads were down. I was like, now I'm gonna just talk to you while you're drawing.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah. So did you grow up as kind of like a space kind of nerd, outer space nerd, or you just like the look of space? Like, do you look at like do you know a lot about astronomy and stuff?
I recently started taking astronomy classes. But mostly before that, it was like, oh, those colors are sexy, and I see how I can manipulate it and how it can be so abstract to me. And I'm really into like light sources that bounce off of other light sources that slightly light up one other thing. And outer space is the perfect place to experiment with that. So is biomech. But glowing shit in outer space, I don't know. Yeah. So no, I didn't know a lot about planets and stuff before this. But then I started getting into tattooing it and coloring it and stuff, and then my clients would tell me a lot of information about space, like, hey, did you know this? And I'd be like, no, but that's fucking rad. So then I started like digging in more on like the history of space. Yeah. I've
done quite a few outer space tattoos over the years. It's such a like tricky, it's all about to pull it off and make it look like the way it should. Where I struggle with it the most is in the edges, like, you know what I mean, like how, because you'll have dark bands and light bands, but then you want to kind of make all the dark bands and light bands contrasty, and then it gets flat, and then it flattens out again. You're like, oh, I need to darken this area, but it's space, so I can't darken too much, or all of it gets too dark. You know what I mean? Like,
and then you just ended up with one of those tattoos that are like black space with little dots, and you're like, oh, those are so disappointing. It's gonna be like a whole nebula background. What am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. I look at people like all the time. I try to find people who really do like tattoo space well, and I feel like it comes down to like those, like how the edges of one like go from value to value, like how sometimes they have to be really abrupt and sometimes they have to be perfectly like soft, and it's like such a
like, are you talking about the endings or like
like, so if you have like say like a band of like you have like black space, and maybe you've got like a nebula kind of thing that's like amorphous, and then maybe you've got like this like comet streaking through or something like that, and like the trail of the comet versus the edge of this black space to the nebula, like how those edges go together, all that kind of stuff.
That's fire. It should be blurry all around it. It should have fucking like dark browns leading up to the blurriness, and like anything in the background of that comet should be blurry because it's fire.
That's right. It's mostly, you're right, it's mostly blurry. You mostly need to have soft edges, and then you have to find those handful that like punch you, you know?
Like the cool hard edges, like, which is mostly like Saturn rings or something. Like they seem like very sharp.
It's tricky. I think it's cool that you like kind of took people through your process, kind of step by step. How much so as far as your work in San Francisco, because that's a stacked town of tattooers. How often are you getting to do the kind of stuff stuff that you want to do? Like, what's your kind of booking like?
I book like 6 months out, and then I pick and choose what I want to do, which is I do have a shitload of outer space going, and then other stuff is like more fantasy realism. I like really like these like Ken Kelly, I think he apprenticed under Verzetta. But I really like that like fantasy, like comic book style of the 70s. So I try to push people that way. But I do like realistic stuff too. But I do get mostly a shitload of outer space, and then I get to do like cool ship battles and dinosaurs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's sweet. My favorite. I think I'm super obsessed with space and dinosaurs. For this like, I was like homeschooled until the 8th grade, and like it was like Christian homeschooled, and my mom, I went and saw like Big Sue the T-Rex like whenever I was a kid. My dad took me, he's like this like summer dad, but I got to see this fucking giant T-Rex. I was like, Mom, I saw Big Sue, this shit's so sick, dinosaurs are so sick. And she was like, that's all carved out of cow bones, like dinosaurs aren't real, it's a lot of plaster. And I was like, oh, dinosaurs aren't real. And I think it wasn't until I was like 16 years
Oh,
old.
really?
Yeah, because you're homeschooled, you're sheltered. No, I might have been like 14, okay? But I
Did
finally
she believe that, or was she
she
like
didn't believe that at the time. She doesn't believe it now, thank God.
Huh.
But she did believe like dinosaur because there's a lot of people who are in the Christian faith.
Yeah, yeah.
Like are like, no, dinosaurs, that's all made up.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, oh fuck, it was all made up. That sucks. I mean,
I would have totally bought that too.
Yeah,
like, yeah, it seems
and as
unlikely.
a kid, I was like, this is crazy. That was 3 stories high. What was I thinking?
Right,
Stupid me. It's like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But then it was like some point I was like probably 14, 15 is what I'm gonna guess. And I was talking to someone about dinosaurs. I was like, yeah, it really sucks they're not real. And they were like, Haley, dinosaurs are real, And I was like, nah, dude. And they're like, dude, I'm fucking serious. Like, I'm serious. They are fucking real as hell. And then it like started it all back up again. So like, I think most people go through that whenever they're like 5. But I was like going through it like
as a teenager,
I'm growing up.
Yeah, getting your driver's license, like, man,
fucking shit! Dinosaurs were bigger than houses. What the fuck? And I think that kind of excitement is the same excitement that I have for outer space too. Because I'm like, that seems unreal, and that's something that, was ignored, as a child because, God made the earth, like, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same shit, where you're just, like, so excited. I'm still so excited. I have a dinosaur tattooed on my neck, like, it's out of control, and everybody's like, yeah, my 5-year-old is really... I've heard that a few times about space. Like, my kid loves space, and it's, like, a 4-year-old kid, and I'm like, right, but I love space, And I'm like... their brains aren't even complex enough to understand what they're looking at. Like giant lizards. Come on.
Like everyone's telling you how well you would get along with their kids. Like, oh, you love space and dinosaurs? You would love my 6-year-old son.
That happens to me all the time. And I'm like, but he doesn't want to talk about the vast emptiness.
What about, I'm sure we're running long, I'll wrap it up fairly soon, but what about you're like, obviously you got a tight knit group. It sounds like with your coworkers. Do you have because you bought? I mean, this was an established business. Mm-hmm. You bought it. What did you say? 5-6 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
How long? So like you had never. I assume you had like owned a business and done books and had you done all that before?
So whenever I was working out in North Carolina.
You forgot to say you were originally from North Carolina.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, deep south like us.
Yeah, so I worked with this guy named Snowflake. He sold a lot of coke. That's where he got his name. Not the new Snowflake, like where you're like a sensitive baby or something. I don't know how they talk, but the old Snowflake.
Yeah,
cocaine. No. But yeah, I worked for this guy for a long time, and eventually he didn't want to like own his shop anymore. And I worked with this amazing artist, Brandon Thurston. You guys look that guy up. He's incredible. But this was when Brandon was like a little baby, and like we were both like little baby tattoo artists. I was 17 when I started working for Snowflake. But eventually he was like, I don't want to do this. You should buy the shop from me. You got $3,000? And I was like, I'll save it up. $3,000, fucking got it. So then me and Brandon ran this little tattoo shop, and it had like this, I built like a mini ramp because I'm like super into skateboarding. Built like a little half pipe in the front of the shop, and then like me and Brandon like looked up videos constantly of like how to get better, like about tattooing, and like got all the magazines and obsessed all the time. So we owned that business together, and then Brandon was like, I don't like to be in charge of money or licensing and stuff. You do it all, and I was like, okay, cool. Like you pay me a percentage at the time. It was percentage,
Yeah.
So I did own a shop whenever I was like 19 years old. And it was in this really small town. We made decent money for it though. Yeah. But yeah, this other shop is different for me because everything has to be very fucking legit because now we're older, and now if something bad happens, I'm in charge of like 5 other artists. When there it was like, oh, I'm just going to do the licensing and pay the fucking rent, right? I don't even think I did business taxes back then. But yeah, now it's all like so legit.
And you do booth rents, right?
Yeah, we do booth rents.
Well, no, you had an interesting structure because you do have a couple of like younger tattooers who do work on percentages.
Mm-hmm. So
run through that because I think that's an interesting kind of structure that you have.
And it helps them out too. Okay, so anybody with appointments who have their books done, they don't need me technically like as a shop name or anything. They can run their own businesses on their own. They're good. They're all booth rent. And then I hire people who have not that much clientele. They got a lot of free time to do any walk-ins. And the walk-ins are on percentage until they're fully booked, which only takes like, I don't know, like you work at the shop for 6 months and you have like, you're like, all right, I'm booked for a couple months, you know?
Yeah.
So I take like younger artists so they can take the walk-ins, and I tell them like, hey man, you work here, it's a busy fucking shop. And yeah.
And then once they hit a point where they are booked, you basically just move them to a booth. Right?
Yeah, and then I can hire somebody else.
But that's more based like on their like, so it kind of gives them a chance, because obviously a lot of younger artists, build their name.
Yeah.
Because a lot of younger artists would be scared to death to rent a booth and sit there and not tattoo.
It's horrifying.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Yeah, but then once they're like, okay, I'm booked like 2 months out, and I think I can maintain this through a slow season. That's what my test is for them. Is like, can you maintain this through a slow season? If you can, go ahead. You can be on booth like fuck. And then they're like, okay, thank you. But I also heard this from, I was getting tattooed at another shop that was like really old in San Francisco, and the guy was like, oh yeah, I know your shop. I think you guys can take like any young person and give them a fucking name. And I was like, well, all right, that's a good ass compliment from my shop. Like, I'm like, we are busy as fuck, but you can like get noticed there. So I do pay attention to like who I'm hiring. Like, oh yeah, it looks like your work is like, you know, like you're about to fucking be there. Yeah, get in there, kid. You know. So it is like a good jump off point.
Yeah, that's awesome, and it's really like you know, it's not something you find a lot in tattooing, because really as they get better and working off a percentage, you'd obviously grow your revenue, shop revenue a lot more, just leaving them on a percentage.
Oh,
so it takes, you're really making a sacrifice.
Yeah.
But you're making a real sacrifice to say, like, all right, I mean, we're going to call it right here. Obviously, you're killing it. There's your spot. This is what it is a month.
Yeah.
We'll just find someone to pull
and
in.
Yeah, you definitely have to be like not like so obsessed with money, because if you're so obsessed with money, then those people aren't going to work for you anyways.
Right.
Like you could be like, no, you're on percentage forever because I like making a shitload of money from you. But they're going to leave. Right. You know, they're not going to be around for a long time, and you're going to look like an asshole.
Talking about building your half pipe in the front of the shop.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've, if you're a skater, you've seen Gleaming the Cube over the
Yeah,
years.
totally.
And when I was a kid, that like room in the backyard, like going down underground, he had that little half pipe. He had like the manhole or whatever. That was the cool. I would still move out of my house for that room. It was the coolest place ever.
Oh my god.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I don't think anybody has talked about Gleaming the Cube to me at all. I think I've like brought it up to other people, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like,
"That was
no, dude, yeah."
That was completely my era, man. I was a kid. I was getting into skating at that time, and it was like, and I remember like them like running through the backyard. He had like a manhole that went down a ladder. And it's like a bed and a half pipe. What else is in it? It's got like a bed, a half pipe, like a dresser or something. Yeah, there's not much to it. It's all like graffiti on the walls. I was like, it's like burned into my brain. I just want to live there. I was like, yeah, I've got a wife and a kid. We can squeeze in there. It'd be fine. Like, Max can sleep on the half pipe. We're not using it.
You can have a half pipe and a wife and kid. It will not stop you.
That's right. Absolutely.
I have a cat. He tells me I can build a mini ramp anytime I want.
Anytime you want. So if people want to keep up with your personal tattoo work, the shop, and then also Live at the Castro, just what's the best places?
Okay, my personal tattoo work is at Haley Adams Tattoos, and then which is HALEY. Yeah. And the shop is at Castro Tattoo SF, and Live in the Castro is Live at Castro Tattoo.
And how often do you guys do it? When is the show? You do it live, right?
We do it once a month.
Once a month? Oh,
and it's for 1 hour, which isn't that much time. So
no, yeah, it goes by fast.
For you guys.
Yeah, and we'll put all that stuff in the show notes so you guys can keep up with the show and all that. I do want to before I let you go, I do want to thank you for like saving me in our panel last night multiple times. One was
hard, dude.
Yeah, one was whenever the podcast panel went into hair talk, but before that, I didn't.
That was really hard for me, and I was also like, "This is not appropriate." All right, fuck. Like I was like actually getting nervous. I was like, "How do I stop this?"
Yeah,
and I was like, "You can't stop it because you were on a panel with 3 women, and if you're like, excuse me, we need to change the subject." because you're gonna look like an asshole. And I was like, it has to be me. Fucking has to be me. Let's do this shit, you know?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And then when I opened the discussion with what do you bitches know about podcasting, talking to the audience.
And then you like looked around and you're like,
it didn't even occur to me that I was sitting there with all women. I wasn't thinking about that at all. And then, but whenever you said, are we the bitches? It's like, you gave me a chance to like, correct it. So you saved me twice.
And we've already been hanging out the other hour because I'm like, yeah, I know he's about to be like,
oh shit. Whatever. Yeah, I know. I was really gonna say, what do you fools know about podcasting? I don't even use the word bitches. That like, it's not my term at all.
I use it, and then I like use it a lot actually, and then I go like, am I supposed to? I'm not supposed to say that. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. Okay. And I'm like working on that. Yeah. We're working on it. All right.
Well, you saved me twice, and I really appreciate it. And I loved our conversations all weekend. I like you're my favorite person here that I've met. I've had a blast. Haley does have a seminar that I sat in on. It was awesome. It is on Reinventing the Tattoo. This is where we plug stuff. Reinventing the Tattoos app, website, however you get to it. I don't know how to navigate that stuff.
I think you go to reinventing.com, you'll find it.
You'll find it. Go to courses, and it was awesome. Can you? I assume that that all of the stuff that you actually gave out is like a digital download? Or
there is. There's a digital download for the worksheet and for the zine that I made. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. And so if you want to learn how to tattoo space, it's really kind of a step-by-step thing. It's like it's a full-on, like it's a rough sketch, but a rough enough sketch that you can tweak it and play with it if you want to. It's all like blue pencil sketches and stuff. And then you can like print it out or do it digitally, I guess. If I download it, I'll just do it on my iPad probably.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Yeah,
and then, you can totally do that digitally. That's actually
instead of printing it, just pull it.
There's like two different parts of space, so you can do like planets and floating rocks, asteroid belt, or galaxies. So or both, whatever.
Yeah, super cool.
But also, if anybody out there has any suggestions of who they think I should interview that has not been interviewed before. Or it's okay if they have been interviewed before, but if you're like, yo, check out this gay ass artist, I'm down. Okay?
I want to get you in touch with my friend and former like mentor, Angela Russell, who owns Underground Art in Memphis. She opened the first, I was telling you about her, she opened the first female, not only the first female owned shop in Memphis, which was not, was a big feat in itself, but all custom, and she's you guys are very similar. I think she'd be a great one to interview. She's got a lot of stories. She's probably, what do you think Angela's like? I don't want to be wrong because she'll watch this. Probably. I'm gonna guess Angela's 36, but maybe 10 years older than me, maybe 8 years older than me. I don't know, but I'm definitely gonna. So all right, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys for supporting what we do. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Bye.
I feel like I'm on Drunk History.
Oh, I love this
show
so much. I love it so much. Hey, thanks again for tuning in to today's episode. I want to give Haley another special thanks for taking the time to sit down with us. Be sure to check out her seminar over at Reinventing the Tattoo. Also, I forgot to mention at the beginning of the episode that we have a brand new affiliate partner, Raw Pigments. You can get a 10% discount on Raw Pigments, Raw Tattoo inks at rawpigments.co. And then at checkout, you just put in the promo code Fireside, all lowercase, gets you 10% off of your order. Also, we have a brand new course, if you haven't already heard me talking about it, called Fireside Simplify. Simplify is all about reducing the number of options that you allow yourself throughout the tattoo design and tattooing process so that you make better decisions faster, more efficiently. You follow me through my entire design process if you jump in on this course from initial consultation all the way through the stencil on the skin. You also get access to our Inside Fireside Discord group where you turn in assignments and we provide critiques, and that's been a lot of fun so far. I've been on Discord every day kind of looking at what people are saying and doing and working on, and I've really enjoyed getting used to Discord. So you get access to Inside Fireside's Discord group. You get the entire course. I'll leave a link in the video description about Fireside Simplify. There's a little video in that link that'll explain it in a little more depth. Thanks again for supporting what we do, and we will see you in the next episode.